Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 1. Sutta Uvach. Anartansa upavrachya vidhantan vadan swakan dadmodar daravaram tesham vishadam samayan iva.
Sutta Goswami said, upon reaching the border of his most prosperous metropolis, in the country of Anatras, Dwarka, the Lord started his auspicious culture, heralding his arrival and apparently crucifying the dejection of the inhabitants.
Text 2. Sa uchakashe dhavalo daro daro vi urukramasya dhara suna shunima tadmaya manah kara kanja sampurute yathapcha khande kalahansa utsvanaha.
The white and fat bowled conch shell, being gripped by the hand of Lord Krishna and sounded by him, appeared to be reddened by the touch of his transcendental lips. It seemed the white stone was playing in the stems of red lotus flowers.
Text 3. Tam upasrutya nindanam jagad bhayavaham pratyudya prajaha sarva bharatri bharshana lalasaha.
The citizens of Dwarka, having heard that sound which threatens fear personified in the material world, began to run toward him fast, just to have a long desired audience with the Lord, who is the protector of all devotees.
Text 4 to 5. Tatropanita balayo raverdipam iva dritaha atmaramam purnakamam nijalabhena nityada.
The citizens
Pritya utfula mukha prochur arshagad vadaya gira pitaram sarvashu redam avitaram ivarbakaha.
The citizens arrived before the Lord with their respective presentations, offering them to the fully satisfied and self-sufficient one, who is by his own potency incessantly supplies others. These presentations were like the offering of a lamp to the sun. Yet the citizens began to speak in ecstatic language to receive the Lord, just as wards welcome the guardian.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Sachi Mataji, could you please increase your volume a bit on the computer?
Sure.
Thank you.
Text 6. Natah smate nath sadan grihi pankajam virincha surendra vanditam rayanam shemam ichhatam param nayatra kalah prabhaveta parah prabhu.
The citizens said, O Lord, you are worshipped by all demigods like Brahma, the four Sanas, and even the King of Heaven. You are the ultimate rest for those who are really aspiring to achieve the highest benefit of life. For the Supreme Transcendental Lord, an inevitable time cannot exert its influence upon you.
Text 7. Bhavayanastam bhava vishwabhavana tvam eva matatha shuritpatiha pita tvam sadgururnah paramam cha daivatam yasyanuvritya kirtino babhu vima.
O Creator of the universe, you are our Mother, Well-wisher, Lord, Father, Spiritual Master, and worshipable deity. By following in your footsteps, we have become more successful in every respect. We pray, therefore, that you continue to bless us with your mercy.
Text 8. Aho sanatha bhavata sma yadvayam त्रैविष्टपानम् अपि दूरदर्शनम् प्रेमस्मिता स्निग्धनिरीक्षणाननं पश्येम रूपं तव सर्वसौभागम्.
Oh, it is our good luck that we have come again today under your protection by your presence. For your lordship rarely visits even the denizens of heaven. How is it possible for us to look into your smiling face, which is full of affectionate glances? We can now see your transcendental form, full of auspiciousness.
Text 9. Yarhya ambujaksha pasasara ho bhavan gurun madhun vatha shurid didrikshaya tatrabda koti pratimah shana bhaved ravim vinakšnor iva nastavachita.
O lotus-eyed Lord, whenever you go away to Mathura, Vrindavana, or Hastinapur to meet your friends and relatives, every moment of your absence seems like millions of years. O infallible one, at that time our eyes become as if useless, as if bereft of sun.
Text 10. कथं वयं नाथ चिरोष्ते त्वयि प्रसन्नदृष्टया किल तापशोषणं जिवेम ते सुन्दरहासशोभितं पश्यमान वदनं मनोहरम् इति चोदीरितवाचः प्रजानां भक्तवत्सलः शृण्वानोऽनुग्रहं दृष्ट्या वितन्वान् प्राविष्टम्.
O Master, if you live abroad all the time, then we cannot look at your attractive face. Your smiles vanquish all our suffering. How can we exist without your presence? Upon hearing their speeches, the Lord, who is very kind to his citizens and devotees, enters the city of Dwarka and acknowledged all their greetings by casting his transcendent glance over them.
Text 11. मधुभोज दशार्हारः कुकुरन्धक वृष्णिभिः आत्मतुल्यबलैर्गुप्तां नादभोगवतीम् इव.
As Bhogavata, the capital of Nagaloka, is protected by
वृक्षलताश्रमे उद्यानोपवनारामैर्वृतपद्माकराश्रियम्.
the city of Dwarkapur was filled with the opulences of all seasons. There were hermitages, orchards, flower gardens, parks, and reservoirs of water-breathing lotus flowers all over.
Text 13. गोपुरद्वारमार्गेषु कृतकौतुकतोरणां चित्रध्वज पताकाग्रैरन्तः प्रतिहतात्पाम्.
The city gateway, the households' doors, and festooned arches along the road were all nicely decorated. The festive plantain trees, mango leaves, all welcome to the Lord. Flags, garlands, and painted signs and slogans all combine to shade the sunshine.
समार्जिता महामार्ग रथ्यापनकचत्वरां क्षिप्तां गन्धजलैरुक्तां फलपुष्पाक्षतान् कुरहि.
The highways, subways, lanes, markets, and public meeting places were all thoroughly cleansed and then moistened with scented water. And to welcome the Lord, fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds were strewn everywhere.
Text 15. द्वारि द्वारि गृहणं च अध्यक्षत फलेक्षुभिः अलङ्कृतां पूर्णकुम्भैर्वलिभिर्धूपदीपकैः.
In each and every door were residential houses. Auspicious things like curd, unbroken fruit, sugarcane, and full water pots with articles for worship, incense, and candles were all displayed.
Text 16 to 17. निशम्य प्रेष्ठम् आयन्तं वासुदेवो महामनः अक्रूरश्चोग्रसेनश्च रामश्च भूतविक्रमः प्रद्युम्नश्चारुदेष्णश्च शाम्बो जाम्बवती सुतः प्रहर्षवेगोक्षैश्चषित शयनांशनभोजनः.
On hearing that the most dear Krishna was approaching Dwarka Dham, magnanimous Vasudeva, Akrura, Ugrasen, Balaram, superhumanly powerful, Pradyuma, Charudeshna, and Samba, the son of Jambavati, all extremely happy, abandoned resting, sitting, and dining.
Text 18. Varanendram puraskritya brahmanai shashu mangalahe shankhaturya ninadena brahmaghoshena chadritaha pratyujag jagmurathe rishtaha pranayagata vasaha.
They hastened toward the Lord on chariots of Brahmanas bearing flowers. Before them were elephants as emblems of good fortune. Conch shells and bugles were sounded, and Vedic hymns were chanted. Thus, they offered their respects, which was saturated with affection.
It's 8 o'clock.
Text 19. Varamukhyascha satasho yanestaddarshanot shukaha lasat kundala nirbhata kapolavan danashriya.
At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads.
Text 20. Nata nartaka gandharvaha suta magadavandinaha gayanti chottama shloka chairitanya adbhutani cha.
Expert dramatists, artists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and learned speakers all gave their respective contributions, being inspired by the superhuman pastime of the Lord. Thus, they proceeded on and on.
Text 21. Bhagavan tatra bandhunam pauranam anuvartinam yatha vidya upasangamya sarvesham manam adade.
Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, approached them and offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives, citizens, and all others who came to receive and welcome.
Text 22. Pravabhivadanas parasparsha smitekshanah ashvashya chashvapa ebhyo varaishchabhi matair vibhuhu.
The Almighty Lord greeted everyone present, bowing his head, exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking and smiling, giving assurances and awarding benediction even to those in the lowest ranks.
Text 23. Swayam cha gurubhirviprahi sadarhi स्थविरैरपि अशिर्भिर्युज्यमानोऽन्यैर् वन्दिभिश्च विशत्पुरम्.
Then the Lord personally entered the city, accompanied by elder relatives and invalid Brahmanas with their wives, all offering a benediction and singing the glories of the Lord. Others also praised the glories of the Lord.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the recitations and reading the translation. That was very nice. So, let me share my screen. I guess everyone can see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So, today we are supposed to discuss verses 21, 22, and 23. Let's
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, Mummy brought it.
Okay. Let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiret. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी यं प्रावृजेतमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजु आवा पुत्रेति तन्मयतयो तरवो विनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं विमानतोऽस्मि. So let's start with 21st verse of 11th chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagwanstatra bandhunam pauranam anuvartinam yata vindhyupasangamya sarvesham manamadare. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, approached them and offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives, citizens, and all others who came to receive and welcome him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is neither impersonal nor an inert object unable to reciprocate the feelings of his devotees. Here, the word yathavidhi, or just as it behooves, is significant. He reciprocates just as it behooves with his different types of admirers and devotees. Of course, the pure devotees are of one type only because they have no other object for service but the Lord, and therefore the Lord also reciprocates with such pure devotees just as it behooves, namely, he is always attentive to all the matters of his pure devotees. There are others who designate him as impersonal, and so the Lord also does not take any personal interest. He satisfies everyone in terms of one's development of spiritual consciousness, and a sample of such reciprocation is exhibited here with his different welcomers. go for the next one. Verse 22. Prayabhivadinaश्लेष करस्पर्शस्मिते क्षणैः आश्वास्य चाश्वपाकेभ्यो वरेश्चा bhimataiर्विभुः. The Almighty Lord greeted everyone present by bowing his head, exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking and smiling, giving assurances and awarding benedictions, even to the lowest in the rank. Purport. To receive the Lord Sri Krishna, there were all grades of population, beginning from Vasudev, Ugrasen, and Gargamuni, the father, grandfather, and teacher, down to the prostitutes and chandalas, who are accustomed to eat dogs. And every one of them was properly greeted by the Lord in terms of rank and position. As pure living entities, all are separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and thus no one is alien by his eternal relation. Such pure living entities are graded differently in terms of contamination of the modes of material nature, but the Lord is equally affectionate to all his parts and parcels, despite material gradation. He descends only to recall these materialistic living beings back to his kingdom, and intelligent persons take advantage of this facility offered by the personality of Godhead to all living beings. No one is rejected by the Lord from the kingdom of God, and it remains with the living being to accept this or not. Verse number 23. स्वयं च गुरुभिः विप्रैः सदारैः स्थविरैरपि आशिभिर्युज्यमानोऽन्यैर्वन्दिभिश्चाविशत्पुरम्. Then the Lord personally entered the city, accompanied by elderly relatives and invalid brahmanas with their wives, all offering benedictions and singing the glories of the Lord. Others also praised the glories of the Lord. Purport. The brahmanas in societies were never attentive to banking money for future retired life. When they were old invalids, they used to approach with their wives and the assembly of the kings, and simply by praising the glorious deeds performed by the kings, they would be provided with all necessities of life. Such brahmanas were not, so to speak, flatterers of the kings, but the kings were actually glorified by their actions, and they were sincerely still more encouraged in pious acts by such brahmanas in a dignified way. Lord Sri Krishna is worthy of all glories, and the praying brahmanas and all others were glorified themselves by chanting the glories of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So let's chant our invocation prayers and we will start our discussions. I'm sorry, I have a bad cold, so that's why my pronunciations are not that good. So I apologize for that. Let's chant the invocations. Om Ajnantimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sa-Advaitam Sa-Avadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Kopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namostate तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। अजानुलंबित वचो कनकावधातो संकीर्तनैकपितरो कमलायताक्षो विश्वम्भरो द्विजभरो युगधर्मपालो वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरो करुणावतारो। यन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसूक्तां सञ्जीवयत्य अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणात्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्। Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you for joining in this discussion of wonderful welcoming of the Lord in his opulent city of Sri Dwarka Dham. We are supposed to glorify all the dhams every day when we do our Premadhwani prayers. So Prabhupada has recommended to all of us, followers of the Sampradaya, that whenever we get up from the bed and we brush our teeth and do our ablutions, and then we go to our altar and start the Premdhwani prayers, which is Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Shriman Shri Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, and so on. And in that we say Shri Kshetra Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Shri Kshetra Dwarka Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Navdvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. So we every day we are supposed to pay our obeisances and glorify the Dwarka Dham, which we are discussing now. That Lord is entering in his abode of opulence, which is Dwarka Dham. So we have seen when the translation was being read in the recitations earlier, how Lord was welcomed, and we can see that here, in the translations, that how he was welcomed. The hastened towards the Lord on chariots with brahmanas bearing flowers. Before them were elephants, emblems of good fortune. Conch shells and bugles were sounded, and Vedic hymns were chanted. Thus they offered their respects, which were saturated with affection. Very important point of chanting the Vedic hymns. It not only invokes the auspiciousness, but it glorifies the Lord, and it purifies the surrounding as well as the living entities from the contaminations. So very important point we should consider here. Sometime back, around a few days back, I was in Tirupati Dham, and I was walking in the premises, and all the pujaris, the priests, were chanting the and priests were chanting all the Vedic hymns. It was, and because of the chanda, the meter, the intonations, and the way they were chanting, and the purity of that, surrounding was so wonderful. It was quite hot, around 11 o'clock in the morning, and Tirupati Dham at the Tirumala, the hill, it becomes quite hot. It's a southern India, and even in that, me and my co-brother, we were walking in that premises, and it was lot more soothing, wonderful, very pacifying from all the heat and the everything else. And it just felt like it's the most beautiful music you can think of. And they were just chanting different types of Vedic hymns, the Sukta, Sri Sukta, Purusha Sukta, and so many different wonderful hymns from the Vedas. So chanting the Vedic hymns, it invokes that auspiciousness, and it's very purifying. And that's what they were doing when Lord was coming. Lord himself is the supremely, his name, his presence is the ultimate auspiciousness. But at the same time, invocation of the Vedic mantras, it brings the what you call, the very mesmerizing, very enchanting surrounding, and that's quite very wonderful. Elephant, the emblem of good fortune. So, and then plantain trees, trees and auspicious herbs and incense and candles and everything. You can say unbroken fruits, sugarcane full of water pots, rose water. Everything is described here. Fruits, flowers, and broken seeds were strewn everywhere. So we can imagine if somebody who is very close to our heart, most beloved person, is coming after some time. For example, we like somebody who's very close to our heart, and that person is going to come to our house. How we will reciprocate with that, with our love, that we will clean everything, make things tidy. Why we do that? Because that person should be pleased. It's our service, and when it is for the Supreme Lord, it's a very personal loving exchange. And that's what these all great personalities, those pure devotees, are doing here, in their own way. And that is the variegatedness in the city of Dwarka. We can read here. So many different types of personalities, the Brahmanas, the young, old, everyone, householders, mercantiles, and then prostitutes, chandalas, everybody. And they are welcoming the Lord. They have that loving exchange, and that is the sweetness. As His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj says, that happiness in this material world also starts with sweet relationship and natural products. When I heard this for the first time, maybe 17-18 years back, I was amazed by the simplicity of his presentation and the depth and the profound details of what Giriraj Maharaj has given us in this particular statement, that sweet relationship and natural products. And this is what we can see in the descriptions here, what they are offering: unbroken fruits, seeds, natural fragrances, and all the descriptions here you can see. And that is the relay. And Maharaj is saying that reciprocation with what we have is something simple, and that the establishment of the sweet relationship, very, very important point Maharaj has given here. Now, as usually because Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but a
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
hang on. Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but case studies of the law book, as Srila Prabhupada and all our acharyas have explained several times. So what is the law book? Bhagavad Gita. So we will try to relate this purports with the verses from Bhagavad Gita, and then we will have our discussions further. So where Lord establishes the basic principle of his supremacy is it starts from the 4th chapter and then it progresses further in the 7th chapter and then up to the 12th chapter. Lord gives the details of how to perform the bhakti, 7th to 12th. And let's go to the 4th chapter, very important verse, which is चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया शिष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारम् अपि मां विद्य कर्तारम् अव्ययम्. According to the 3 modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the 4 divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. So he has created these systems, and that's what the reciprocation we are currently looking at. Kshatriyas, Brahmanas, Chandalas, Shudras, and according to the psychophysical nature, what every Jivatma, the body they get is what they desire and what they deserve, correct? According to their karmic reactions from their past lives and what they desire. If a Jivatma has very desire to fly high and then have a always bird eye view, and so they will, and the person, and if that Jivatma desires deserves good body, then the person will get body of Gandharvas or some demigods who can fly and who can control different principles of the material nature. If somebody is really sinful and they have the desire, they will get some body of a bird or even worse than some insect or even mosquito. Yeah. So accordingly, the divisions and the different creations of the living entities are here in the material world, and that's what Lord has established in Bhagavad Gita, and we can see the details in different scriptures. If we go to, for example, Padma Puran, there is elaborate descriptions of the creation of this world as well as the what do you call the Leela, the pastimes of the Lord. It's a very elaborate descriptions. In this currently in the material world, the Padma Puran we have is around 78 to 84,000 verses. Some are Falashruti or the glorification, some are the core verses, and that's why there is a difference which copy you follow. Very elaborate descriptions. So let's go to the next verse. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spruha itimam yobhijanati karma bhirnasa baddhate. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. Very important point here. Lord is instructing us that he is reciprocating with his devotees because that is the relationship we all have eternally with the Lord, and that reciprocation is an indication that any kind of action you perform, if it is devoted to me, I will reciprocate accordingly. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. Yeah. So, of course, Prabhupada has beautifully explained these principles in the purport. I don't think we have enough time to go through the purports, but we can we all can read these purports as our time permits. 4.15 एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म पूर्वे रपि मुमुक्षुभिः कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतम्. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. And here we can see all the personalities, the great personalities in the Dwarka Dham. Now they are acting, reciprocating the Lord's love in their own manner. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps, and we should perform our duty as per our capacity for the devotional service in the path of bhakti. That's what the instruction is, and that's the Leela we are going through in these 3 verses here. Okay. A whole of 4th chapter, we will see so many principles established here in this particular context. So if we go yeah, let's just pick randomly any verse here. These 2 I thought we can just go to. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. So here, all the residents of Dwarka, they are offering what they have, they have given up all sense of their proprietorship, whether they are top class brahmanas, rishis, all the sages, and they are giving up their possessions, whatever they have, for the service of the Lord, and acting only and acts only for the bare necessities of life for themselves. Yeah, as Prabhupada always tells us that we should offer everything and accept what is necessary for us as a prasad, and that is a karma. There is no reaction to that. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reaction, and that is the principle of akarma. Okay? He who is satisfied with gain which comes of his own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy. And this is a very important principle we can see in these 3 verses. There is no envy. All the residents of Dwarka are saying, yes, what we want is just your glances. We want that sweet relationship with you. And there is no sense of envy there. Who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada agama paino nitya stam sitikshasva bharata. We should tolerate the dualities, the happiness and distress as the seasons, as Lord is saying here. And the next verse in 2nd chapter, what Lord is saying, yam hina vyathayantete purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram somrutvaya kalpate. So Lord, what Lord is telling us here, that samadukha sukham dhiram, happiness and distress, sukha dukkha, somrutvaya kalpate. The person who can see that as an observer, he is eligible. He can come back to me. That is the promise given by the Lord. And this is the famous verse. I'm sure all of you know this quite well. How to perform all our activities every day. Brahmarpanam brahmahavir brahmagno brahmanahutam brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. A person who is fully absorbed. Havir means what? Havir means butter. Yeah. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities. So here, that butter is our all activity. in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Very, very beautiful verse it is, very, very poetic. So if we read it few times, we will just keep chanting this in our mind. So that's what the fourth chapter is. Oh, it's already 8:32. Let's discuss about one of the verses in from the fifth chapter. Nadate kasyachit papam na chaiva sukrutam vibhuhu ajnanena vrutam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Nor does the Supreme Lord assumes anyone's sinful or pious activities. Here we can see that Chandalas, prostitutes, all the Shudras, even if they have some sinful reactions and activities, he does not assume, he just accepts everything as he sees everything with equal vision, and he has that anukampa, the compassion. Teshameva anukampartham ahamadnyanajam tamaha nashayamyatma bhavastu jnanadipena bhasvata. From the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Lord says that he has that anukampa. When somebody comes to me with that, with devotion, he destroys that with a shining lamp of knowledge. Aham ajnanajam tamaha. Tama means ignorance. The ignorance gets destroyed. Nashayamyatma bhavastho. Jnana deepena bhasvata. By the shining deepa means lamp. Jnana deep, shining lamp of knowledge. However, and here embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Yeah. So it is our responsibility that we should have a correct knowledge of the path of bhakti and follow that knowledge for the to expect that sweet relationship with the Lord. We should hanker for that sweet relationship with the Lord. The important principle here in this chapter for us to take away, forever, not only for us, for every living entity, and Prabhupada has very essentially emphasized here, he is not inert, just as it behooves, with his different types of admirers and devotees. As His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says that there is a unity in diversity in spiritual life, in spiritual world, and we can see that here. There are so many different types of admirers and devotees here, but the atmosphere is just of devotion towards the Lord. And of course, all the pure devotees are of one type only, because they have no other object for service but the Lord, and therefore the Lord also reciprocates with such pure devotees, just as it behooves. Namely, he is always attentive to all the matters of his pure devotees. So I think here, as pure living entities, all are separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and thus no one is alien by his eternal relation. Such pure living entities are graded differently in terms of contaminations of the modes of material nature, but the Lord is equally affectionate to all his parts and parcels despite material gradation. Such a immense optimism Prabhupada is giving us here. Even if we have our mind contaminated, we have all the rubbish in our heart, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsara, lust, anger, greed, everything. But still, when we start our devotional service, there is a guarantee that Lord reciprocates. Sometimes we will understand, sometimes we won't. For example, a small child may not understand how much love his parents are showering towards that child. In our contaminated condition, we may not understand how Lord is reciprocating with them. But this is an assurance given by Prabhupada that yes, as we continue our devotional service every day and try to step up our devotional service every day, there is a guarantee that Lord is reciprocating with us. When we are doing deity worship at our home, that means there is a reciprocation. Only thing is, sometimes we will understand, sometimes we don't, and we should not be discouraged. It's a immense optimism Prabhupada is giving us here in the purport. And Prabhupada is not giving anything theoretical. He has the practical understanding. He knows how that happens. And we have seen that in case of many great personalities in our sampradaya, in our Guru Parampara. And recently we saw in case of one of the greatest personalities recently we have come across is His Holiness Padam Kadambakanand Maharaj. How an amazing reciprocation he had from his spiritual master, from Prabhupada, and all the devotees. I'm sure all of you know that quite well. So in the third purport, we'll go to 7th chapter quickly and some of the verses, beautiful verses from the 15th chapter in next 5-10 minutes, and then we will have some time for question answers and comments. So in the 23rd verse, this is an important point, and that's why I'm jumping a little bit here. Sometimes we think that flattery is works, and here Prabhupada is giving a very important instructions that when we are such brahmanas were not, so to speak, flatterers of the kings, but the kings were actually glorified by their actions, and they were sincerely still more encouraged in pious acts by such brahmanas in dignified way. So the job of Brahman is yajan, pathan, pratigraha, and dan. 6 actions Brahman is supposed to perform. Yajan. Now these are all old Brahmins. They are retired, we can say here. What they were doing earlier, before their retirement, performing yajnas, sacrifices, and getting it performed, and they were doing it on behalf of others. That means encouraging others to perform sacrifices. So that indicates yajan and yajan. Then they were studying the Vedic scriptures and teaching the Vedic scriptures, pathan and pathan. Then they were begging alms, because when you study scriptures and you perform sacrifices, automatically, because of the purification, people usually get a lot of siddhis, the mystic powers. Example, when your conduct is pure and when you are chanting certain mantras, person gets vacha siddhi. Vacha siddhi is whenever you say something, it becomes true. If the person gives the benediction, for example, so be it, tathastu. If someone is saying that some couple comes and says, we don't have child, and if that Brahman is pure enough by following all the yajan, pathan, pratigraha, and dan, we'll come to those last 2 points. And if the person says to that Mataji that Saubhagyavati Bhava, that means her husband will have a good, long life. And if he says Putravati Bhava, that means the lady will get son, or Putrivati Bhava, she will get a daughter. Just by that benediction, just by those blessings, people used to get whatever that person used to say. That is called Vacha Siddhi. The second type of, I'm just giving an example. Second type of Siddhi is called Prapti Siddhi. If somebody says that, yes, let me get some food, and food used to appear somehow in front of them. So that is called Prapti Siddhi. Then there are other Siddhis, Anima, Laghima, and many more. So such Brahmana, so because of the Siddhi, naturally when you have Siddhi, when you know the scriptures, when there is a lot of respect people are getting, those Brahmanas used to get immense respect from kings, from the knights, from the mercantile class, from everyone. So there is a very high possibility that they will develop pride. And if there is a pride in the heart, naturally it's a disease. And pride comes with, it's another side of the coin called envy. Because of that, Brahmanas were not supposed to accumulate a lot of wealth. So what they used to do, pratigraha. Prati means across, agraha means begging alms. Now every day they were supposed to beg alms, and then if they get something extra, they were supposed to give it back. Whatever that extra is, they were supposed to give it to someone else. So that's how the Brahmin class was. Now somebody who are all the old Brahmin people, their family, they were supposed to because begging alms may not be that practical and easy for an old person. So naturally it was kind of advice and telling the king that yes, you are doing these things good. So it is not a flattery. They are actually encouraging the kings that your actions are good, you are doing good. And that is basically, it's an advice. How to tell that they whole life they have been chanting and they are scholars, so they knew that quite well. And that's how, because of this advisory, they were taken care of by the king himself in a very nice, in a proper manner. These Brahmanas were the advisors. Very important point here is getting those blessings, encouragement for the pious acts from the elders is very important. And this is the very important advice to all of us, that we should always give respect to all the elderly people. It's a Vedic principle and very, very important principle we all should follow, because those old people, since they don't have any those great personalities here, since they did not have any material desires, the benedictions they give are very powerful benedictions. And that is why we should always be respectful towards the elderly people. Sometimes they may say things which are sometimes a bit discouraging, maybe a bit harsh, but that should be tolerated, even as a benediction, as an advice to us. Very important principle here. Let's go to the 7th chapter, where Lord establishes the very fundamental principle of his personality in the 7th chapter. And here we can see Naham Prakasha Sarvasya, that's the verse here. Avyaktam Vyaktimapannam. And then we will, yeah, here it is. Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. Yeah. So let's go to this. Avyaktam Vyaktimapannam Mapannam Manyate Mama Buddhayaha Param Bhavam Ajananto Mama Vaya Anuttamam. Sorry, my pronunciation because of my cold are not very good. I'm really sorry for that. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So, residents of Dhamavasi, why it is emphasized that we should never offend Dhamvasi, because their consciousness is that Lord is the personality, is the supreme personality, and they have that eternal relationship with them, and that's the reason whenever we go to any dham, Vrindavan dham or Dwarka dham or Mathura dham, Jagannath Puri dham, we don't know who is the actual associate and the eternal Dhamvasi there, and that is why we should be very respectful, not only in Dham, to everybody, and that's the message from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Amanina manadena kirtanya sadhari. That's how we should be chanting the holy name of the Lord. Very important point. And let's go to the next verse. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudoyam navijanati loko mam ajamavyam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. So the people who think that Lord was just a great personality, they will never understand what is the principle of supreme personality of Godhead. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Yeah. And this is what we can see here, that this is the eternal relationship the Dwarka Dham Vasis are establishing here. They're showing that eternal principle that yes, you are our Supreme Lord and we are your devotees, we are your servants. Chapter 15, there are some very, very amazing verses. The inertness part is coming from this 10th verse. We have discussed this few times earlier. Utkranantam sitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhana anupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spells of modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. So it doesn't matter who is, what is the background of the devotee, what their social status is. The person who has the knowledge that whatever that covering Vamsansi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya, if we can look beyond that, that is the soul and the servant of the Lord or the devotee of the Lord. It gives us higher understanding of how this world is functioning. Yatanto yoginaschainam pashyantya manyavasthitam yatanto pratatmano nainam pashyante chetasaha. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. Yeah, that's the continuation of this last statement here. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. Very important. It's a transcendental humor here by the Lord himself. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. Isn't that a bit of a humorous statement, that you can try, but unless and until you understand the basic principle of self-realization, that we are all the servants of the Lord and he is the supreme personality of Godhead, and that's the principle Lord gives here. ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनःषष्ठानि इंद्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति. All the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Obviously, what is the nature of his transcendental abode that is described here? Tadbhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramama. The person who understands, he will never come back to this material world, never return. Yeah. Guarantee. We don't need any other insurance from this material world for that. So this is again, we can see here who that Lord is. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamachritha Pranavana Samayukta Pacha Myannam Chaturvidham. I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of food stuff. So whatever we are offering to the Lord, it is coming from Him, and He is establishing the principle of how our body works, how this material world works, everything. And then the famous verse comes here, Sarvasya Mridisanya Vishtu. So that's what I think we can just go on discussing about the verses. It's just it's for our, as we discuss more and more, it is a lot more purifying. And yeah, only thing is now we are short of time. I kept on talking more, so I'm sorry for that. We'll stop here. Are there any questions or comments or anything anyone would like to discuss?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams, Reverse Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for very wonderful, very detailed, very elaborate class. It's very, very nice. Nice to have you back. Prabhuji, I have one humble request, if that's okay. Prabhupada used to say that he has invested gallons of his blood in writing the purports.
Yes.
What we should aim to try and do is not skip the purports. We should try and read, if you wouldn't mind, it's my humble request, Prabhu, that we should read his purports and provide commentary on top, not instead of. It's my humble request, because Prabhupada's entire effort has gone into writing these purports and explanations for us, and when we skip them, we, I think, show a little disrespect by doing that, if that's okay, Prabhu.
Of course. Only thing is, I think, if I remember correctly, I read purports of verse 21, 22, and 23. I hope I haven't skipped those. Am I right, Shailesh Prabhu?
I think I was serving the deities once you were doing that, but I think you mentioned that you were wanting us to read the purports separately at our own time.
We did read these three purports for the three verses.
Sorry, Prabhuji. So my apologies, because I was serving the deities and I heard your comments, so I assumed you may have skipped any purports.
No. What I was saying is, these Bhagavad Gita verses
I'm so
I was
sorry.
referring to, those purports, we won't have enough time to go through these purports.
Oh, yes.
That's where I was saying.
My sincere apologies, Prabhuji.
No worries, that's fine.
I was listening, but I was listening with half a ear and serving the deities with the other half, so my apologies.
No worries. So,
thank you again for a wonderful class. As always, very detailed, very elaborate.
No problem. Thank you for your encouragement. Any other comments or any questions? Is there anything in the comment? Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, wonderful class, very detailed and, as usual, beautiful class.
Thank you for your encouraging words, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you, Sumadura Radhika Mataji, for your encouraging words. And if there are no questions, then we will stop here. Always nice to be in association with all of you. It's for my purification that I'm allowed to speak a little bit. So thank you very much, and we will meet again sometime. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव
पतितानां वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.